Access granted. Welcome to the channel dimension.
This quote yet again came in handy. First just was RCB's unbelievable comeback from wooden spooner to qualifying for this year's playoffs. Now, weeks later, this same statement applies for England's T20 World Cup campaign in 2024. I know it wasn't a qualification to top 4, actually, it was for the Super 8s. But if you see the way they qualified, it is actually an inspirational one. So let me get into depth on this one, especially for those who haven't watched cricket. This is actually important for them. England didn't get any practice games before this World Cup, so they were completely new to these pitches. That is also a point here. Now, England's first game against Scotland was washed out. Thereby, we cannot get a result of that, although England did get a point alongside Scotland, 1 point. However, you know that in T20 in World Cups, every point matters, and even 1 point out of 2 is kind of costing sometimes in important situations. Now, however, England lost their next game against Australia with a big margin, which dented their net run rate to -2. Yes, it's actually a big dent in the net run rate. Now, with Scotland winning 2 matches on the trot and having a huge net run rate boost over England, it seemed like it was going to be an early exit for the defending champions. Australia had already qualified from that group as the first team for Super 8, so there was just 1 spot left, and the main toss-up was between Scotland and England. Scotland seemed to have an upper edge, and they were almost 90% confirmed. With 2 more wins than England and a huge positive net run rate, it seemed like England's dream was gonna be over early. This was the points table at halfway. Look where England was. They were yet to register their account win after playing 2 matches, and there were multiple teams above. They had a huge negative net run rate, and all seemed over. In fact, to make things worse, they had to battle rain-based games too, which hampered the remaining games. The rain did frustrate English fans for a while. So the next game, England won their next match versus Oman with an extremely huge margin. It was so huge that they even surpassed Scotland on the net run rate. Imagine, they were from -2 and they had got a net run rate of +3, which was even better than Scotland. This was a huge turning point in their qualification chances. Now, even though England was still below Scotland, but they had a huge net run rate, so they just needed a win now. They didn't have to worry about net run rate. They had to get a win in their last match. In the next match against Namibia, they couldn't afford a loss. Neither they could afford a washout, because even a washout could end their hopes. They would definitely need 2 points to level Scotland. The match against Namibia, I remember well. It was raining so heavily on that ground, so heavily that it looked like the rain might rob England of the spot. It was coming and going and coming and going, and just inspection. It was frustrating English fans for so long. If it was gonna be a washout, England could lose title defense, and it would be a humiliation to lose a title defense because of rain. But miraculously, it's unbelievably, just minutes before the game was gonna be called off, it was concluded that there would actually be a game. There would be a game, a 10-over game. That would surely delight English fans. They didn't care if it was a 10-over or 5-over, they needed a game and a win. And what happened next? Just guess, what happened next? England won again. In a 10-over side, they defeated Namibia and rose to the second edging. They had completed all of their matches with a win. They had reached now the second spot and edged out Scotland on a better net run rate. Now you see England qualified. Wait. No. There was still a final hurdle to go. England finished all their games, but 1 game was still remaining, and it was not English game. England needed Australia to defeat Scotland, because if Scotland won that game, England could have been knocked out still, because they were both level on points, but England was just barely above because of a better net run rate. So England needed Australia to win. to keep their second position intact, even though they were their rivals. I mean, the English fans couldn't, they couldn't even, they must have thought that what a day has come that we have to support our rivals for once, arch rivals, our oldest rivals. There were even external talks that Australia could slow down versus the Scotland, but let's leave it because these are just outside talks. What matters is what happens in the game. And in the Scotland versus Australia match, Scotland actually gave a tough time to Australians who had never lost a match in this World Cup before. In this year's World Cup, Scotland scored 180 and Australia had Australia on the ropes halfway. They had Australia on the ropes halfway. It seemed like it was gonna be over for England. Luckily for England, Australia came back roaring. They turned the tides as thanks to some knocks from Stoinis and Head, and that finished from Tim David. Luckily for England, they won. Australia won the thriller. Well, yes, Australia won in the end, which helped England to qualify for the Super 8. I mean, even the English fans must have loved seeing the Aussies win for once. Now, I know that the Australia winning versus Scotland was kind of a lucky one for England. But if you see the whole, England had to win all of their matches. They had to win match with a bigger net run rate, huge net run rate. They had to battle rains, and they had to win all of their remaining matches with this, which they did. Even with the rains, even with the opponents. I mean, the opponents, I know that they are associate teams, but still, yeah, they had to win with a big margins, and they did all of that. And in the end, they got the result they wanted, and they qualified for the Super 8. Now, I think it is an inspirational comeback. They were literally at the bottom of the table and no one could imagine that they could actually qualify from that position. But that's what defending champions are made up of. I'll see you guys the next time, so take care of yourselves guys, and so long.